All right, this is 8th grade math, adding integers 2.2, which is page 63 in your book. We have some more key vocabulary. I believe integer showed up in the last one for us right here. Okay, integer is it's positive. It can be positive numbers, negative numbers, and 0. Remember, 0 is neither negative or positive. Absolute value is from the last one. Absolute value is the distance a number sign is from 0. And it also is never negative, because distance is never negative. Okay, those are review from before. We have the additive identity. Let's take a look at that, and it happens to be inside of a key concept box. So if you guys would look, both of these, additive identity and additive inverse. So why don't we'll even just do it right here in the key concept. And you know, I don't write the best with my pens, so I'm going to have you guys make sure you copy down the key concept. I won't always write down everything. An additive identity is 0. 0 is the additive identity, because anytime you add like a number to 0, you get that number. So it's kind of like like a mirror. 3 looks into the mirror and sees itself. It sees its identity. So -3 plus 0 is -3. So if we say use the additive identity, we mean to use 0. Add 0 to a number. And the inverse property, right here, additive inverse, in this case, would be you need to add the opposite. So if I have 3 and I say add its inverse, you add -3 to it, which would be 0. So you can write those examples out of the key concept box on page 64. And then I'll attack that other key concept box here in just a second for you guys. And sum, you know, sum means to add, and that's pretty easy. So we'll attack most of these when we get to them, and talk more about the additive inverses as we go. So the next slide has us doing the first example. Talks about adding on page 63, adding and using a number line to add. On a number line, which, let me see if they have one on here so I don't have to make it. On a number line, we always start at 0. So this is going to be our starting point right here at 0. Whenever you see, you're going to start with the first number. Whenever you see a positive number, that means you always go to the right. So notice we traveled to the right 5 places. And then they go up for the next number so you don't overlap. And then negative means you have to travel to the left. So that's basically 8 means 8 steps. So 5 of them back to 0, and then 1, 2, 3 more, and where did we end up? At -3. So 5 plus -8 using a number line is -3. And that's what you have to be careful with in this assignment. If it says use a number line, you have to draw the number line and show the direction you're going. So then it talks about the answer in the final position. So example number 1, using the number line. Notice we start at 0, and probably the worst part about the number line is making them, but you guys will survive. So you go -6, so notice they go to the left because it's negative, and then we go up another layer for the next number, and we go back 10. There's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we end up at 4. So -6 plus 10 is 4. All this is using a number line, and I expect you to use a number line to find these. Notice this one has 2 negative numbers right here. So we start at 0, and first we go -4. We go the first number. And then we go up a little to travel to show we're going to the second number, but notice that's still negative, so we continue to go to the left 3 more, which would put us then at -7. So -4 plus -3 is -7. So in the guided practice it says use a number line, so we have to draw a number line, and I don't know if they have it, so I'm going to draw a number line, and I know that I can already tell I have to go -8, so I'm going to have to number this all the way to -8, maybe. My pen was working really good. Alright, so the first thing I do is I start at 0, and I'm just going to go a little, well here, maybe I can make it, let me see. I think I can make it a different color. Let's make it blue. So I'm going to go -8 this way, because it's negative. And then I'm going to come up and show that I go back to the right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 places, which puts me right here at -4. Kind of like that blue color. So the answer to -8 plus 4 using a number line is -4. And let's see, they did the same thing and end up at -4. So again, it says we have to use a number line. This is the guided practice. You're doing this with me. So here's, they're all negative, so I see I got to go clear over on the -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. Okay, so I start at 0. Oh, wait, let me get a different color, because that's kind of fun to, let me see, let's do green this time. So here at 0, we're going to go first -1, then we go up to show the second number, and I go 6 more negatives, so I keep going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which ends me up here at, that's not good English, -7. So -1 plus -6 is -7. Now I know some of you can do that without a number line, but that's what we're practicing right now, so use the number line. Alright, so the final answer. So, example number 2, which there is a key concept box that I want to talk about with you guys. And the key concept, let me change, I don't like that green, I'm going to go back to, I'm liking blue for a while here. Okay, on the key concept box, it talks about adding integers, okay? And you can add any of them. This is without a number line. So you got two situations. You have integers that have the same sign, and you have integers that have different signs. So if you look, let's do the same signs. It just, let's put an example. The one we just did, -1 plus -6. The first thing you do is you add the absolute values. All that means is you just add the numbers. 1 plus 6. Because the absolute value of -1 is 1. The absolute value of -6 is 6. And I don't even think absolute values. I just think you add the numbers and you get 7. Okay? The second thing you do is you keep the common sign. So they're both negative up here. So that means they would be negative down there. -7. And you guys, that's what you do with positive numbers. When you add, for example, 5 plus 3, well, the absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of 3 is 3. So that's 8. And they're both positive, so it's +8. So the same sign, you just add the numbers, and the sign stays the same. That's all there is to adding integers. Now, different signs, it's a little bit different. Let me see. -4 plus 10. Okay, now let's do this in Mrs. Bivens' language, which is the same as the key concept, but this is just the way she looks at it. You look at the two numbers. Number one, you look at the two numbers, and you subtract. And I know it says to add, but you subtract because you have opposite signs with each other, so some numbers cancel each other out. In order to cancel each other out, you have to subtract. So you subtract your numbers, and look what the book says. You subtract the lesser absolute value from the greater one. So I just say you just subtract the numbers and just do 10 minus 4, which is 6. That's all you do. You take the bigger number first, the smaller number, and you subtract them. Don't worry about the signs, just subtract them. And then to worry about what's the sign, it's the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So, what's the greatest absolute value? Which one is the most steps away? The -4 or the +10 is farther away from 0, so there are more positives than negatives. So basically the positives win out. So that answer is +6. Okay, so let's do another example for different signs. Let's do 13 plus -4. So you look at them and you say, oh, the signs are different. This one's positive and this one's negative. So you subtract the numbers. 13 minus 4 is 9. And then you say, which one is bigger, 13 or positives? Are there more positives or more negatives? There's more positives. So the answer is +9. That's all there is to adding integers. So there's your key concept box. So we go in here and we do the same thing. The signs are different right here. So we subtract the numbers. 12 minus 4 is 8. And in this case, there are more negatives. -12 is bigger than +4. So that answer then would be, that's not look very good. That looks like a positive, is, you can redo that, -8. So let's see what I know I wrote all over it. It's there. You can see it. It's behind it. It's a -8. And they're explaining exactly what we just did. And then they're checking it on the number line. They went over -12 and back 4 and ended up at -8. Adding more than 2 integers. So as we're going through and we're adding different things, there are finding the sum using the order of operations. So you go through and you have parentheses here. Well, -7 plus 7 right here. You get 0. Plus still the -8 plus the -5. And the only reason why they have parentheses right here and right here is to separate the signs so they don't run together and look bad, so they separate them. It doesn't mean anything else but just to separate those. Well, 0, when you add 0 to something, remember you get that. You get the same thing, so that's the additive identity. So 0's, that's just an extra, we don't need to do it. -8 plus -5, the signs are the same, so we just add the numbers and the sign stays the same. So it's -13. And they're talking about the 0 identity property and the same sign, so they end up with -13. So example number 4, the school fair. Your class has a fair to raise money for a field trip. The table shows the income and expenses for the fair. How much money was raised? So games, 750, display table, 625, donations, 36. Advertising was -16, which meant you had to spend that. Decorations was -60, and game rentals was -500. So first, they suggest, and this is what I do too, is I add all the positive numbers together. All the positive would have been your profit, so that was these numbers right here. So let's add those. 750 plus 36 plus 625, and those are all of your positives. So 11, carry the 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, another 11, carry the 1, 14. So $1,411. Then it says to add the negatives. So we have 16 and 60 and 500. So that's easy. That's 576, which it's negative. And we add those together. So notice we have a positive and a negative. I'm going to go to black now. We have a positive and a negative. So they are different signs, so we subtract those numbers. And we're basically subtracting our expenses out of our income that we made at the fair. And that's going to be a 3. I'm just borrowing because you can't take 7 away from nothing. 0, 13 minus 5 is 8. I believe, and there's more positives than what we spent, so I believe we made $835. That's a good fare. That's a good money maker. So let's see, they agree with me on the two numbers there. And 800, I can see it just came up underneath, $835. So that one worked for the answer. Okay, guided practice. Find the sum. Identify any addition properties you use. All right, so the first one, I am just seeing there's no zeros or anything as far as properties that we learned. There's no opposites because opposites are the inverse the additive inverse. So I just look at the numbers. They're both negative. So I add the numbers and get 35, and it stays negative, negative 35. Same sign, you add them. Number 4, I see a 0 right there. So anytime you add 0 to something, that's called the additive identity. Okay, so additive identity. So I don't do any 0. There's no reason to add 0. So I go to the 18 and the negative 54, and I get their signs are opposite. So I subtract 54 minus 18, put the bigger number on top. That's going to be 6 and 3, 36, and there's more negatives. So the answer is negative 36. You have to be really careful that you remember to put the correct sign on it. And there's the identity property of addition, which we said additive identity. And then they just added and ended up with negative 36. Doing good. All right, let's go through here. And we have more than one number, so what we'll do is let's add the positives first. So I go through and I'm going to find all the positives. Remember, you can add numbers in any order. So you can, let's see, let's pick our, let's be blue for positive. So 300 and 111 make 411. Then let's add our negatives, which let's make those red. So 256 plus 44. That's 300, so plus negative 300. So we just subtract. 400 minus 300 is 100. So we have $111, and it would be positive, and I should have written that in black to show that that one comes out positive. So add the negatives. That's the inverse property. What did they do? Oh, they canceled those out. I see. Doesn't matter what order you add in. So, all right, so we look here. What can we do on this one? Let's see if I can figure out. I don't know. I'm going to just keep doing it the same way. What color do I have here? Red. Red is my negative color, so I'm going to go negative 230 plus the 512. I'm going to add the negatives. Okay, so negative 742. And actually the real color for positive is supposed to be black. And 94. So 272 and negative 748. So I would subtract those because the signs are different. Remember in the key concept box. 742 minus 272 is 0. 14 minus 7 is 7. 6 minus 2 is 4. And it's going to be negative 470 because the negatives were bigger than the positives. Let's see what they did. I think they did the same thing and came up with negative 470. Same thing we did. So the last guided practice says, what if? Suppose in example 4 that games made $825 and decorations cost $100. How much money did the class raise? So games made 800. So for the games it was $825 we made, along with the $625 on the display tables and $36 on the donations. And the decorations cost the $16 for advertising. Decorations cost $100 instead of $60 according to this. That's the changes I made. And the game rentals were still $500. So that is $616 in expenses, which is negative. And this is 16, carry the 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1486, so we subtract those. So 0, 7, and 8, is that right? 6, 8, checking my work, yep. So I'm going to say we would make $870. And I just went back to the table and I re-looked at everything and I put in these two new numbers. I put in $825 for the games and I put in $100 for the decorations and then just redid the problem. And that's what they did. See, they added the 825, the 625, and the 36 just like I did. And then the 100, the 16, and the 500. And we came up with $870. So our class raised $870. So that's it for 2.2. We'll see you next time. Have fun.